Welcome back to the show. XRP back at $3 again for the second time today. Uh-oh, somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. Take a look at this $3.88 trillion market cap. Now, the market's off 0.9, but we're almost at $4 trillion market cap here. Bitcoin 121,700 plus, screaming in the new high territory, and Ethereum 3,000 plus right now. XRP number 3 spot is $3.01. Now we're up 6.2 on the 24 and 32.3 on the 7-day. Looking at the range of price right here, we're ranging between 278 and 302. That's where we are. XRP's out for a jog this morning. Listen, there's never been a better time to think about where your assets are than in a market that's starting to take off. Listen, if you want to start getting a great night's sleep, you know I diversify my assets on several different trusted platforms, and we're looking at one of them right here. It's iTrustCapital. You can too. And if you're a new customer, get an exclusive $100 funding bonus. But let me tell you, this is a closed loop system with the new account they've come out with, the PCA. And if you haven't investigated the IRA, what in the world are you waiting for? That could be one of the most smartest power moves you've ever made for your retirement in your life. You roll over your 401k right now and catch all this crypto run with legislation passing. Oh my gosh, being signed into law. That's a whole nother story. Make sure you check out the IRA account. You won't believe it. But the PCA account, the scams, the spamming, the attacks out here, trying to get into people's crypto accounts. This is the stuff that bothers me and keeps me up at night. And I tell you, you don't have to worry about it if you want to get into a PCA account. Listen, the places that I put my crypto are some of the most trusted platforms in the world. This is one of them. Go to itrustcapital.com/XRPArmy, use the code at the bottom, XRP6, or just simply click the link underneath any one of my videos, the first link under any video, and get started today, because I'm telling you, if you think it's hard to hold when the market's down, you want to absolutely know that your assets are safe. Try iTrustCapital, because you'll feel so good. I'm telling you right now, because it's a closed loop system in the PCA. You have to come out of your crypto into cash, and that's done to cut out a lot of the attack vector out here from bad actors who try to get into your crypto accounts and then send your crypto to their account, and then it's never to be seen from ever again. What they've done here is specifically designed for the long-term holder that allows you to put your crypto in, but if it gets sold out of the account, whether it's you or if you've ever been attacked, it can only go to your checking account. And that is a nice, safe, closed loop system. Make sure you check it out for yourself. You're going to love it. Breaking right here, Bitcoin is now the 5th largest asset in the world, surpassing Amazon, Silver, and Google. As you can see, Bitcoin making its way up the chart for market cap here. There it is. And guess what else is moving? That's right. It's XRP, baby. We were at 301 in the early hours, and we're back to 302 right now. Loving this for us. I tell you, this feels good. This feels good. But it feels good because we know we have so much more good news that is still yet to come. So let's talk about some of that here in a second. Right now, you can see Chad Steingraber says, I could do this all day, showing where all the volume is coming from. And we know Upbit, I believe out of Korea, has been a massive, massive player in this whole XRP volume game that has been taking off of recent. Well, and then we just saw this too, recent ProShares XRP Futures ETF, not spot, Futures ETF, will go live in just 5 days from now. And a reminder that we have the long list of XRP spot ETFs that we're still waiting for. And BlackRock is rumored to be on the sidelines waiting for that as well. But when it comes back to the XRP ETFs, the futures ETF, look at this from 3IQ Digital Asset Management. Said they're proud to announce that the XRP ETF that they're doing Canada's largest XRP ETF, has accumulated over 50 million USD in client assets since its launch just 1 month ago, just shy of that. So there's a huge demand here. The significant milestone for our XRP ETF shows the continuing strong interest in these assets and highlights how retail and institutional investors are becoming increasingly discerning with their allocations, selecting this asset, which offers a combination of flexibility that comes with exchange traded funds combined with 0% management, and then they start selling the product. I get it. But nonetheless, this is big, and we're getting ready to see all of these spot ETFs get the approval before too long. You just watch here. And breaking, we covered this in depth in the first video. If you have not seen it, please go watch that first video. FedNow ISO 20022 for FedWire is live, ladies and gentlemen. Now we just need the U.S. legislation to become law. The final pieces of this puzzle are about to be realized. That's what's in front of us, ladies and gentlemen. FedNow is live. This is amazing. And as I've said with ISO 20022, I did not expect the price to go astronomical like some people were saying. What I said many times, and I'll say it again, is that in my 8 years in this space, I've seen everything phased in over time. And I would expect to see that incremental phasing in of things to continue, because that's what I've witnessed for the last 8 years. Nonetheless, looking at this, Grayscale now confidentially filing for a U.S. IPO with the SEC. Shh, it's confidential. Make sure you don't tell anybody like I just did. Nonetheless, coming back to this, when we talk about the volume, like what Chad Steingraber pointed out about Korea and the exchanges, and when you look at this, XRP has surged to the number 2 spot on Coinbase with $413 million in 24-hour trading volume, second only to Bitcoin. That's right, Bitcoin with the over $2 trillion market cap, second only to that. Well. Digital Asset Investor says, you know what comes next? I know I do. It's a flippening of Ethereum, which has already happened in trading volume, a flippening in price, which someday will happen again. We did flip Ethereum back in the day in 2018. We were the number 2 market cap. I tend to think that's where all this talk about suing us came from. So, now, with that being said, I do believe that we're going to see in the future XRP flipping everything in the market. I do believe that. How long it takes, I don't know, but I'm here for it. And here's what we know. For a lot of people that said RLUSD would displace XRP or other stable coins would displace XRP, read it and weep. Yes, XRP is the most used currency on the XRP ledger in terms of payment volume. There you have it right here. Done. This only gets bigger when U.S. legislation becomes law. Write that down. And speaking of U.S. legislation becoming law means that every major bank that uses cross-border payments will be allowed to and will want to, for the cost savings, the lack of friction, to use XRP in the ledger to move assets. And then the question from Crypto Basics is this. Here's the price of 1 XRP if every major bank uses it for cross-border payments. Ripple points to the growing role of global payments, especially through Ripple's on-demand liquidity platform, now rebranded into Ripple Payments. For context, ODL allows banks to use XRP as a bridge currency. It allows them to settle cross-border payments without pre-funding accounts. We know the rest of it. We all know this, right? Nonetheless, ChatGPT does 3 different scenarios here. Let's go from the smallest to the biggest. It says here, ChatGPT presented a more conservative estimate focused on bank reserves rather than transaction flows. Notably, it assumed that 1,000 top global banks each held $500 million worth of XRP to meet their liquidity needs. This level of adoption would add up to 500 billion in holdings, considering the circulating supply of 60 billion. XRP in this case would land at around $8.33. Right now, coming to scenario number two. Scenario number two is, meanwhile, another model looked at the total cross-border payments market, including corporate payments, retail flows, and remittances. The market adds up to 200 trillion each year. If XRP handles just 5% of that volume and turns over 5 times annually, it would need 2 trillion in active supply. Such a setup would support a price of $33.33 for XRP. And the other scenario here, the ChatGPT discussed several bullish models, each based on different approaches of value. In one of the most aggressive estimates, it imagined XRP capturing 10% of the $150 trillion that SWIFT processes each year using a velocity of 3, meaning each XRP gets used 3 times annually. It calculated that the system would need $5 trillion worth of XRP to function. Now, with a circulating supply of 60 billion tokens, that would push XRP's price to roughly $83. So there's your 3 ChatGPT scenarios broken down right there. Now, with that being said, we know that Brad Garlinghouse has said himself that he predict in a question asked, how much will XRP handle in 5 years of Swift's volume? And he took a stab at it and said, let's call it 14%. He put it right there. 14% puts us between $12 and $25, according to Grok, Super Grok. So that's what we're looking at. 14% puts us there. Now, with that being said, there's another scenario that says, basically looking through the range here, final estimates is between $12 and $100 when I asked the difference between 14% of the daily transactions versus 14% of the yearly. So it's a little broader range when you do the yearly question to SuperGrok. Nonetheless, we're at $3. Crypto Insight UK, who is amazing, shout out to Will, break the $3 resistance for XRP, and we send towards all-time highs as our last and final resistance before price discovery. How about that? And Gert Van Lagen, Gert says, XRP 2 weeks, it's looking like it's set to continue its bull market parabolically after bouncing off the neckline of the 7-year-old double bottom ascending triangle, targeting at least $38. Last breakout of lesser caliber brought price 2 times its parabolic target, so this is conservative, says Gert Van Lagen. How about that? $38 is conservative, he is saying. There is something to be said, and we've had this conversation off and on throughout the years, that, the charts are telling us very bullish things, and we know that we need fundamental news to become, solidified to affect the organic movement of the charts. Meaning, an example of U.S. legislation becoming law. That's going to affect the charts. And then we have to ask ourselves, because we don't truly have price discovery on the asset, because we don't have spot products that are out for XRP, but we have futures. And it is the derivatives market that really derives a full price discovery properly, the way it's normally done. And because we don't have the institutions that are allowed to play in here every single day the way that they want to, but they're about to, can we really know where this thing could top out? It will really depend on how hard, how fast, and heavy they come in to take positions in all of these assets that they feel will serve them and their businesses and their banks for the next however many years. That's what we're talking about here. Because when you have products like ETFs, AMMs, and I believe in the future, U.S. digital bond issuance of XRP bonds, Bitcoin bonds, and other bonds from the U.S. Treasury, you're going to have a great demand to buy up these assets just for those products. leaving the companies and banks and financial payment providers and virtual asset service providers and all these payment providers out here with no choice but to buy up as much as this as they can get, because it'll always keep going up in price in a general sense because of the demand for these other products that compete for upward pressure. You know, look, this is very, very interesting where we are right now, and no one can really know where we're going. But I tell you, I love everyone's opinion about what they think is about to happen, and I'm here for it, however it is. I know this, it's exciting to see that we're above $3 and we're getting ready to knock on the door of the previous all-time high. I'm here for it. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. Let's do this. I'll catch all of you on the next one.